All right, welcome back to the Multi-Cloud Network Architecture Series. This is episode 6, and in this episode, Dana Systems is going remote. We all know why, right? COVID is taking over the world, and now all our employees at this company are going remote, and so we need a really robust enterprise-level user VPN solution that's going to scale. Here are some of the requirements. Number one, it of course needs to be multi-cloud. Dana Systems is a multi-cloud organization. They have Azure, they have GCP, they have AWS, they have multiple regions. So it really definitely needs to be multi-cloud. Number two, Dana Systems is a big company. We've had a couple acquisitions already, and so we have over 1,000 users. We need to be able to scale this out horizontally and support the amount of users, the sessions, the bandwidth. Definitely don't want to have any performance problems as we go remote. Number three, we have to support Geo VPN. We have users all around the world at Dana Systems. We have users in Latin America, we have users in the UK, we have users in Asia and in the US. So we really need to be able to support Geo VPN so that wherever they're connecting from, they're getting the best performance as they ingress the User VPN solution. In addition to that, we have to make sure this is secure. So the solution needs to support SAML. And I'm talking about Azure AD, Okta, Duo, two-factor type stuff. We need to make sure that we're ingressing and using the solution in the most secure manner possible. Number five, this has to be profile based. So if a developer joins the User VPN solution, they need to be only allowed to reach certain resources and not others. So they should only be able to reach the dev VPCs. And if a marketing person joins, they need to only be able to reach the marketing VPCs. So we have to make sure this is profile based and that the access is based on the user joining the solution. And lastly, Dana Systems uses all sorts of clients, iPads, MacBooks, anything, Windows PCs, IoT devices. We need to make sure that any type of client can join this User VPN. And so, of course, what are we going to use? We're going to use Aviatrix because we support all of this. And we already have a full Aviatrix multi-cloud backbone deployed for Dana Systems. It's been running fantastically. It's meeting all the requirements. So we're going to continue to leverage this enterprise solution for the multi-cloud networking and move forward with it. And so I have invited a colleague of mine that I love working with. His name is Nicolas. And Nicolas is our expert on User VPN. And I'm going to have him actually go through how this is deployed, how we can meet all these requirements in the Aviatrix multi-cloud networking platform. It's going to be really exciting. And I'm going to hand it off to him right now.
Hey there, how's it going, man?
Good, thanks for joining. I appreciate it.
Yeah, anytime. So let me walk you through in just 1 minute what Aviatrix User VPN can do, and then we'll go straight to the lab. We'll show topology, we'll show the controller, we'll show SAML, and everything else. But at the high level in the cloud, you have those VPCs or VNets you want to access, and you have remote users. So the first thing is the Aviatrix controller, which gives you a centralized point of management and visibility. So you don't have to manually spin up resources in the cloud, and you don't have to manually touch any route table. It automates the entire cloud networking and security for you. So using that controller, you would spin up VPCs, and typically you would have a dedicated VPN VPC in which you would launch an Aviatrix gateway. And then typically, you guys know MCNA now, you typically have a transit VPC in which you would launch transit gateways from Aviatrix and connect those elements together. Now, what's cool is you need to be able to scale, and Aviatrix enables you to scale very easily by automatically spinning up a load balancer. And so if it's AWS, that's going to be the AWS load balancer. If it's Azure, that's going to be the Azure version of it. It will just do it for you. And then it's going to attach the VPN gateways behind the load balancer, and therefore the more users you have, just the more gateways you're going to have. Now, you have different types of users. I mean, employees, contractors, and partners, and obviously they have different access permissions to your VPCs or VNets. Now, you don't want your security rules to be based on an IP. Actually, even if you wanted to, it's really hard because users, by definition, they come and go, they move, they could be in a coffee shop, they could be at home or in an airport. So instead, what you want to do is profile-based security, meaning a user is going to be assigned to one or more profile, and then the profile itself is going to hold the security controls to the cloud resources. So So, for example, a partner is going to have access to the blue VPC, and the contractor is going to have access to the purple VPC.
Yeah, could you also create rules for on-prem connectivity? If they have to go back to on-prem, you can control that with rules as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That makes no difference for us. That would be just a different, same type of rule, just to a different IP, whatever is your on-prem subnet or subnet.
Great.
Yeah, and this is all based on standards. So this is actually OpenVPN based. So you could use any OpenVPN compatible clients, or we also have an Aviatrix client which has a few advantages that we're going to talk about later today. Actually, I can tell you now, the main advantage of the Aviatrix VPN client is integration with SAML. SAML is a protocol to integrate with identity providers, which many enterprises use. Examples are Duo, Okta, or Microsoft Azure Active Directory. And what you would do here is then the users are not defined on the Aviatrix controller, they are actually defined on this identity provider that, acronym is an IDP. And so Aviatrix is able to go, let people authenticate with IDP and then come back to the controller. Obviously, this is multi-cloud. So, this architecture applies equally well to AWS or Google Cloud or to Azure. And if you wanted to, you could even have, user could VPN into one cloud. But if you don't have a VPN presence in a different cloud, there's no problem. They can still access resources that could be in a different type of cloud simply by an Aviatrix transit connection. There's also Geo VPN, and you were kind of talking about it, because users move, you want to be able to get them the best performance. And also at the same time, you want manageability to be easy. You don't want to have to re-provide a different OpenVPN certificate every time a user moves, because by default, the OpenVPN certificate is actually tied to a VPN gateway. But with Geo VPN, there's only one certificate, and the users could, be anywhere. They would actually go to, latency-based DNS system from AWS, which then is going to direct them to the closest VPN gateway.
So this is great, because then they don't have to then have a bunch of different profiles on their clients and manipulate their profiles based on where they are. They just use the exact same profile, and then they'll always connect to the closest point of presence, and they'll always have the same access rules no matter where they're connecting from, right?
Yeah, exactly. Plus, you get to save money, because if they use the wrong certificate, or if you don't have Geo VPN, well, say they typically connect to the West Coast, but one day they travel to the East Coast. Well, first of all, they would connect to a gateway that's on the West Coast, so the latency is not going to be great. But then typically they would access resources now on the East Coast. So the traffic would have to travel, back and forth 2 times across the country, and you would get cross-region charges or, extra charges from the cloud provider.
Really optimal. Okay, great.
Yeah. And then the last point is what you were mentioning. Of course, for many customers, they still have workloads that are in some data center on-prem. So again, we have no problem supporting that. We can provide, access to workloads that could be in the cloud or also could be on-prem.
Maybe we should take a look at the topology and how it fits into the MCNA. We're working on the access layer of the MCNA, right?
Yeah, you're right. Can you see my topology now?
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, so that's my little lab, topology lab. And you see most of the components we're going to touch today are indeed at the access layer, which typically we represent as being the bottom layer, okay? Because you see here we're going to have our users, okay?
Yep.
And they are going to connect to VPN gateways, which are behind a network load balancer. And from the VPN gateway, then you're going to go to a spoke gateway, VPN VPC, which essentially is your entry point to the rest of your transit network.
Yeah, real quick, just so I can refer back to my MCNA diagram, because they've been seeing this for the last 6-7 episodes. If you guys remember, I did SD-WAN integration recently, and I created a dedicated SD-WAN pod for ingress and egress, and that was at the access layer. So all we're doing in this case is creating a dedicated user VPN pod in the access layer that connects to the transits upstream to West Transit, East Transit, doesn't matter. You can put them connected to whatever you want. But that's all we're doing here. It's just another way to access the cloud securely.
Exactly. Then, you get to your transit layer from the MCNA, where you have transit VPC and your transit gateways. And then this is where you have the workloads.
Perfect.
So today is going to be fun, because we're going to pretend to be a user. We're actually going to VPN from this laptop where I am right now. and we're going to make sure we're going to see, how we can access resources that are in the cloud. Now, what's cool is, like we said, we can go back to on-prem. See here, we have a router, London branch, or it could be a data center. So that workload also could be accessed. What's also nice is you see how we integrate with best-of-breed enterprise-grade identity provider through SAML. And so you see we have Okta here, and we have Active Directory, so we're going to show both of them. And you notice this is Route 53, and I have the domain aviatrixrocks.net. And so vpn.aviatrixrocks.net is actually, latency-based load balancer that is going to, enable us to choose the closest VPN gateway for Geo VPN. So you notice here, when I have UW2, this is because this is a US West 2 region, and this is US East 2. Okay, and so we'll do a little quick test. I'm based in the San Francisco Bay Area, so, we should be getting to a US West 2 base gateway. And now what's cool is, you see, this is Aviatrix, so we have obviously an Aviatrix controller here in the shared VPC, which, by the way, I know this is not VPN, but you can also leverage SAML and identity providers for the login of the users to the controller.
Yeah, we're going to do that in a different video, an upcoming video.
Oh, nice. Cool. Okay. And then you see we have Google Cloud also. I don't have Google Cloud on my for VPN right now, and that's okay. That would be fairly easy to do. But I have Azure, and so we're going to demonstrate Azure as well. So like I was saying, this is provisioning an Azure load balancer, and we can see how we get to access workloads in Azure.
Awesome. Okay, Nick, this is great. You're meeting all the requirements of my Dana Systems fictitious company, so I'm really excited to deploy this. So let's take a look at how everything's configured.
Cool. So let's take this VPC, and I'm going to show you how you would launch the gateway and how it would be attached to the load balancer. Then we'll create a user, and we'll show how we can connect.
Okay.
So I'm going to my controller, and I will go to gateway, and simply create a new gateway. And so we are multi-cloud, so cloud type in here is going to be AWS. And gateway, we won't create it because in interest of time. So let's call it test. I would choose my account. Yeah. So you see I have my VPN VPC.
Yep.
Okay. I would choose, one of the subnets. But then what's interesting is the VPN access would be enabled. And this is the options I have. Okay. So this is the subnet from which users are going to get an IP.
Got it.
This is SAML. We'll use SAML just in a few minutes. We can limit how many max connections we want to have. And split tunnel is a very popular functionality because typically you don't want to tunnel everything to the cloud. Mm-hmm. You want only, specific subnets, which are typically subnets of the workloads that you want to reach.
Yeah, so maybe you don't want to backhaul all your internet all the way to the cloud. You just want to maybe a couple private subnets. Here's what you're saying, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. Exactly. And now this ELB is the Elastic Load Balancer. So what's going to happen is if you don't already have a load balancer in the VPC, for VPN, it will create it for you. But then the controller is really smart. If there's already a load balancer that Aviatrix has created before, it won't try to change it. It will just keep it and simply create the gateway and attach the gateway to the load balancer.
Oh, so this is how you scale horizontally. If you want to just get more throughput, more sessions, you just keep building more gateways, and it'll automatically connect it to that Elastic Load Balancer that was there.
Exactly. And then duplicate connections. Also, some customers like to do that to allow a given user to connect multiple times. One use case could be you have your laptop, but also maybe you have a mobile device or smartphone or whatever. So you want to let them, connect more than one time.
Got it.
Yeah, and then PBR is if you want, to redirect VPN traffic to, let's say, a third-party device for additional inspection.
Cool. So we have some service insertion mechanism there as well.
Yeah.
Got it.
Absolutely. Okay, and so that's how you would launch a VPN gateway. Then typically you would place a spoke gateway in the same VPC. Then between the two, it would be routed in a VPC underlay. And then your spoke gateway would be attached to a transit.
Just so we're clear here, and so that everybody understands, you first would have a VPC built out, and then you could before you even do any of this user VPN stuff, you would just create a spoke gateway like they've seen in my other previous videos, and then you would just tell it, hey, connect that spoke gateway to the West Transit VPC. And once that's done, then you can go back and start building out your user VPN gateways and the load balancers. Well, that automatically gets done for you, as you go through the workflow. But that's the workflow, right? You would first have the VPC built out, then you create the gateway, connect it to the transit, then you start doing the user VPN side, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Great, Nick. So then I guess the next thing we need to do here is we need to define the user and then connect them to a profile and get it all connected, right? So what's the next step?
Yeah, it's true. So next step is going to be to define a profile in the controller. And then remember, one of your requirements for DNS systems was to use an identity provider via SAML. And so here we're going to use Okta.
Okay.
And so user actually is going to be defined in Okta. So we're going to do that, and then we simply are going to connect and just make sure through that VPC and the VPN gateway we have access to one of the workloads. I think we're going to try accessing this workload in the cloud.
Okay, great. Let's do it.
All right. So see, back on the controller, under OpenVPN, we have profiles. If I look at the prod profile, right, because you're the CEO, so you have access to prod resources, it's essentially a set of access control entries, layer 4, with, a target and a port. And so here we were saying we want to have access to that prod 1 VPC, which is 1021. Yeah. So that's why here we have 1021, so and all the rest is actually denied.
They're just firewall rules, basically, access control entries.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and that's it. And you see now we're going to use Okta as identity provider with SAML. So we won't use the controller to define the user. I mean, we could, but typically for enterprises, they host the users in a separate element. And so here we go to Okta, and you see we have those lists of users. But we're going to create one in just a second, but you see what we've done beforehand is created a custom application for Aviatrix called Aviatrix Developer, which is actually tying back to our controller.
Oh, okay, got
this
it.
Is how Okta knows how to talk to the controller. Yeah.
Cool. So the integration's right there. Got it.
Exactly. But let's go ahead and create somebody. Okay. So we're going to add a person in Okta. That Dana, and let's say your last name, we're going to say it's actually CEO.
Nice.
And you're going to be Dana at, danasystems.com.
Great.
Okay?
Yep.
And then I'm actually going to set a password for you. All right?
Okay.
Okay. You now exist in Okta, and we're going to assign you to the Aviatrix, developer SAML application. And remember, the last thing is we said you need to have access to the production VPCs. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to look at your profile, and you see we have a custom field we have defined before called Aviatrix profile. All right? So those values are going to be passed to the controller.
Got it. So that'll map to the Aviatrix. Yeah, that'll map to the Aviatrix profile that we pre-created in the controller, right? It's just now it knows which one to use.
You got it.
Okay. Sweet.
You got it. That's 100% right. So let's go back to the profile and see it was called prod profile.
Yep.
So I'm going to take this one. I'm going to paste it here. But you see, for good measure, we can have multiple of those. So if you wanted also to have the tester profile, we could put the tester profile in a comma separated list. Okay. So now I'm going to save, and that's basically all we need to do from the Okta perspective. So as you can see also, it's actually fairly simple. Now, when I go back to OpenVPN, I had actually configured SAML before. You see, I mean, this is essentially tying back to Okta.
Yeah.
Okay, but again, the configuration is actually fairly simple. So what we're going to do now is go under that set of gateways which are behind our load balancer. And we have a certificate. I mean, we're going to create a shared certificate that every user can use. Right? There's no point creating multiple because the users are defined on Okta anyway.
Right.
So we're going to create that shared certificate, and we're going to download it, and then I'm going to pretend I'm you, Dana, on this laptop, and we're going to connect to the cloud. Okay?
All right, let's do it.
So VPN users, well, actually, I had created it before. Okay? You see, that's the shared certificate that ties to that VPC, or should I say to that load balancer. Mm-hmm. And at this point, in my VPN clients, this one actually is something we had tested before, so I'm just going to remove it, and now I'm going to download this shared certificate.
Okay. And this is we're going to pop it into the Aviatrix user VPN client, right?
Yeah, and actually, it's canvas-based. It's OpenVPN, so any OpenVPN client could work. Okay. But we're going to use Aviatrix VPN because it has a better integration with Okta or with SAML in general. So I do that. I have my shared certificate. And I'm going to connect in just a second. But you see, before we connect, we can open up a terminal. And we can see if I check the routes that I have, obviously right now, I have no routes to any of the cloud subnets. Okay?
Yep.
Yeah. So now let's connect. And you see, boom, right away, this is bringing us to Okta.
I love it.
Okay, to authenticate. So we said we created the user dana@danasystems.com. And this is the password I had set to you. And it says, oh, that's the first time. What's the food you least like as a child? And, maybe you didn't like cookies. So we're going to say cookies.
Man, I love cookies.
That's too late. Okay, and you see, we actually know it looks pretty good, right? Because we see profile were passed. There's the first name, the email, and, the group that ties back to the controller. So actually right now I could go back to the controller on the dashboard, and I can actually see I have one active VPN user.
Oh, cool.
And that's awesome. That's actually you, my friend.
That's awesome. You can even see my public IP there and what platform I'm connecting on, a Mac. Wow.
Yeah, because I'm on the Mac right now. I see the client version. I see in which gateway you landed.
You could force
that's
disconnecting.
The US West 2 SAML VPN Gateway 1. You actually landed on that gateway.
And you could force disconnect users in here if you want to kick them off. That's good.
Yeah, and that's cool because see, even though it was a shared certificate, we still have a complete visibility on users.
Yep.
From the controller perspective. So anyway, now we are connected. And so if I go here back on my terminal, when I do netstat, what do I see?
I see.
Those are the routes
we
had programmed when we did the split tunnel, the cider advertisement. Okay?
Yep.
So now we're going to try to ping the instance. And what's the instance? 10.21.23.105. And it works.
Okay. So the beauty of this, guys, you need to realize is how seamless this occurred, right? We didn't have to configure routing anywhere. It did it all for us in the cloud. We configured these users, we configured the profiles, the connectivity, and the routing's happening for us. Aviatrix is handling all this end to end.
Yeah, that's true.
Perfect. Great. All right, so that was Okta integration, but you know what? Dana Systems acquired another dating app earlier, and that company that we acquired used Azure AD, and so I want to make sure I can also use Azure AD in this setup.
Yeah, absolutely, you can, and the process is actually 100% similar. And so that's what we're going to show here in the topology. You see, we're going to use Azure Active Directory as mechanism to store our users and which profiles they use, and use the same SAML mechanism to report back to the controller. We actually also here use Azure as a cloud, but obviously this is a dependency. If you wanted to, you could use Azure Active Directory with AWS or any other type of cloud.
Cool.
But here we want to show, how in Azure, we're going to access a workload in Azure, which is actually this one or this one. But you see how it's multi-cloud network architecture from Aviatrix. So it's the same architecture, it's the same gateways, it's the same design. Obviously, the load balancer is different, but the rest has been repeated from AWS to Azure.
And we didn't have to figure out any of that complexity. The controller itself understands what constructs to deploy in Azure versus AWS versus GCP versus OCI to get the exact same multi-cloud network architecture in place. You don't have to figure out any of that complexity. So it's very repeatable. This is the beauty of Aviatrix platform.
Yeah, it's true. And you know what's very cool? Of course, I didn't have to launch a new controller in Azure. I mean, I'm keep using the same controller since the beginning, which could be placed anywhere and is able to manage and troubleshoot every cloud.
Right.
So see, I have AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud.
Cool.
Yeah. So see, now I can show you Active Directory, how you configure. So this is my Azure poll.
Yep.
And then it's actually similar to Okta. You see, you would go to Enterprise Applications, and here I have created a new app for my Aviatrix User VPN.
Yep.
Which is essentially tying back. I won't get into the details, but just like Okta, this is tying back to the controller.
Got it.
So that's one. And then I have users, and you see I have this user called John. We're just going to use that one.
Mm-hmm.
And John is a prod admin. So we made it part of the prod profile tester and branch profile. And, our prod profile also now actually includes access to that BU1, which is the 10.101.
So that's the same profile matching thing we did on Okta as you're doing it in Azure AD.
Exactly. You got it. That's exactly right.
Cool.
And so you see back on the Aviatrix controller, now we have those VNets and gateways that have been created before. And, back to OpenVPN, in SAML, we also have that endpoint, which represents our Azure Active Directory.
Got it.
So now what we've done is a similar process. We created a shared certificate for Azure, and you see it's tied to that SAML endpoint. And by default, it's actually going to deny, just in case the profile association is wrong on the Azure side. But here we know the profile is going to be just fine.
Okay.
I can go here and again just simply download that certificate. Okay. And I go back to my VPN clients and not delete. I want to add that one here, which is the Azure West US2.
Got it.
So I do open and I do OK. And, just to prove the point, again, here I'm not connected. I don't have any routes to that subnet.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I try to ping that instance in Azure, of course, I'm not going to be able to ping it. So now let's connect and see how it goes, okay?
Okay.
So I click here and I click connect. And you see right away, this time this is bringing me to Microsoft Azure Authentication. And so this is not this account, that's a different one because we said the user is John. Okay, so we're just going to take that username. And this is the one we are going to be using. Yeah, and you see it worked, right? We see right away the profiles have been passed. Just like the previous time, this is the right SAML endpoint. So now I can go back to my dashboard and I see I have that user that just came in. And indeed, this is me. This is John at the Microsoft.com.
There it is.
With all the good profiles, except this time I've landed in the gateway. That's the Azure gateway.
Okay, and one thing to note here for people that might ask, just because we're landing in that Azure gateway doesn't mean we can't leverage resources in different clouds. Remember, when you build the Aviatrix multi-cloud backbone, the encrypted transport architecture, we're going to be able to reach any resource in any cloud as long as you built out this backbone using Aviatrix.
Very good point, thanks. And so see now, I go back to my terminal, and if I do net stats, well, I see on that gateway, I was also doing a split tunnel and advertising all the right subnets.
Yes.
And so now I am able to ping
there it is.
My workloads in Azure.
Fantastic. Awesome. Thank you very much. I'm happy we'll be able to use Azure plus Okta, so we don't have to worry about that going forward. So Nick, the last requirement I have for you is Geo VPN. I have clients all around the world. This is a global organization. Dana Systems is expanding. We're growing. People are using dating apps everywhere you can imagine, right? So I have users that are going to be connecting in China. From China, they're going to be connecting in from Australia, from New Zealand, pretty much everywhere, okay? So I have this requirement that they connect into the closest entry point and have the best performance. Can you help me with that?
Yeah. You're right. So we actually have that in the lab, and you see the way it works is this time the user is not going to go connect straight to a load balancer. The reason is the load balancer in every cloud is a regional construct. It belongs to a specific region.
Yeah.
And so instead, we're going to use, a DNS hosted domain, and we're going to connect to that domain, and we're going to use latency-based routing from AWS Route 53, which depending on where we are, it's actually going to bring us to whichever is the closest load balancer. And so again, we're going to pretend from my laptop to be that John production user. And I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area. So hopefully we're going to make sure it works. And hopefully I'm going to be connected to the US West 2 load balancer. But, if I were to, be moving to the East Coast, maybe for a short trip, I'm in New York City, then it would actually connect me to US East 2, which is the best load balancer for me. What you need to have is a domain name, and it happens that I have aviatrixrocks.net. You need to have one, and then what you do from the Aviatrix perspective, again, is extremely simple. You go to OpenVPN, and under Advanced, we have a section called Geo VPN. You choose your cloud type, and you specify which domain name you want to use. And of course, that domain name needs to belong to an account that here is my AWS network account for which the Aviatrix controller has access to.
Got it.
Which is typically the case for every account you use to set up your VPCs and your gateways. So yeah, there's no problem here. And then you specify a service name, which means Aviatrix controller for you is going to go set up Route 53, for the vpn.aviatrixrocks.net. And then you add as many regions and load balancers as you want. And so you see here we have added that 079 is actually this one. In US is 2. And this 009 is the one in US West 2. And if we want to take a quick look, we can see that actually it has been done. Because you see if I click here, and I didn't do that manually, by the way, Aviatrix has done it for me, but you see how those two guys.
Oh, so it handles the record insertion for you.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah, it's amazing. The controller is so powerful. It does the routing from multi-cloud, it does the visibility, it does everything, but also even now DNS management. Anyway, so you see, you do that, and then it's very simple. Then for VPN users, then we create a user again. Actually, here we tie it to Azure Active Directory.
Yeah.
Right. Even though we connect to AWS, this is fine. This is no problem. So we create a shared certificate because our users are actually defined in Azure.
Yep.
But this time you see the load balancer gateway name. You notice this is actually here a DNS name.
Oh.
Okay, a DNS name because this is a vpn.aviatrixrocks.net.
Yep.
So all we need to do now is again download the certificate and save it to our laptop. This is what the network admin would do, or the VPN admin.
Yep.
And now I'm going to do a personality change. I'm going to pretend to be that John user that received the certificate from his admin, and is going to use his VPN clients. And we're going to add that shared certificate for this DNS.
Yep.
So we open, and again, we do before we connect, just to prove the point that this is not a fake demo or anything. We're going to try to reach that instance, the 1021 EC2 instance.
Yep.
So go to the terminal, and obviously VPN is not connected. So again, I have routes to the 1021. So of course, if I try to ping it, there's no way to work.
Got it. No route. Yep.
Yeah. Actually, if I actually wanted to see in advance which load balancer I would go, I could do host.
Oh,
VPN
cool.
Aviatrix net. See that it's actually going to the 09.
Yeah.
Load balancer. As we said, we kind of know it's going to work because remember the 09 is the one in US West 2. So it looks pretty good, but let's go ahead and connect now. Okay, so it's tied to Azure AD. So as expected, this is telling us to pick an account. So we're going to get that John account. We were logged in before. So that just worked. And we see again things are looking good here, and we can confirm that from the Aviatrix controller perspective, we have that user that is active.
Yep.
And when we click here, indeed that's the right guy. But you see how this time we know it looks good because we are connected to that AWS US 2 VPN gateway.
Okay, so connected to the right region gateway. Got it.
Yeah, exactly. It went straight to this gateway. And so now we can make sure we have the route, and you see the 1021 is here, so if I do a ping, that is working, but also we can confirm that we are taking the shortest path. Because do the trace routes, well, you see what the trace route is doing, right? It's going to 23, 20, and 21.
Yeah.
And that's perfect. 23 is a VPN VPC.
Yep.
20 is a VPC.
Yeah.
And 21 is straight to a VPC hosting or EC2
Got it.
instance.
Perfect. That worked like a charm. You didn't have to do anything. You just configured it in the controller, a couple entries there, and it did all of it for you. That's fantastic.
It's amazing, man. I mean, you and I have been around for quite a long time in the industry. We've been, working with so many products that are so complicated. And what I think we both talk about Aviatrix is extremely powerful, extremely advanced. You see, here we achieved something very powerful, but it was extremely simple to operate.
Yep. Imagine having to do this by hand. Doing any of the stuff that we showed you today could take days, if not weeks, but doing it in Aviatrix controller, it's literally minutes. It's just incredible. Okay, Nick, I think that's it. I think you met all my requirements. Is there anything else you want to show us, or are we good to go?
That's about it, man. It was great to be here.
Okay, I really appreciate you joining the call, and I hope to have you again on another one.
Yeah, I hope so.
Okay.
Thanks, Leon.
Take care.
You too, man. Bye-bye.
Now that was awesome. Having special guest Nick our solutions architect from Aviatrix, join us to talk all about User VPN and how he could meet all Dana Systems requirements with the Aviatrix Enterprise User VPN solution was just mind-blowing. It's so incredible how the controller makes this so seamless, so easy, and so repeatable across multiple clouds with all these additional functionality like SAML support and Geo VPN and super high scale. It's just incredible. I really love it. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.